Hey everyone, welcome to week 6 of the Garden State HSWrestling.com podcast Nearfall. I'm Donald J. Brower, bringing you some great action, some great results, and just kind of my play on wrestling and my thoughts on more of Sussex, Hunterdon, and Warren, and now Passaic. We'll get to that in a minute, but before we start the show, I got to talk about the man who brings us each and every week this great podcast. No, not Jared, the podcasting legend. He's a little later. The man who pays the bills. Dan Warnikoff, Champion Athletes. When you buy a brand new car and you want it to be at peak performance, sure, you have the tires, you have everything, you need the proper fuel. That's essentially what Dan does for athletes. You want to talk about, you could be a football player, wrestler, baseball player, hockey, track, lacrosse, everything, in-state, out-of-state. You don't even need to be an athlete. Dan Warnikoff will help you achieve your goals of healthily losing weight and not feeling that hunger. You know, when you're on a diet and you're trying to cut weight and you get that pit in your stomach and you just feel hungry all the time, so you wind up cheating for the most part, he will help you with great meal plans. My own family uses them. Dan Warnikoff is proven. So give him a shout at championathletes.com. Dan Warnikoff, once again, the sponsor of this show. Now, we had a busy week this past week, covered a great tournament, added a new tournament to the cachet, as we like to call it here, the Passaic County Tournament, our first time, hopefully not the last time. We thoroughly enjoyed covering it. Just a quick recap, Passaic County Tech wound up winning its second and third 3 years, obviously, because of COVID. They had broken the streak of 7 straight by DePaul, which they ended in the pre-COVID year of 2020. The OW, Laith Hamda from PCT, who won his 100th in the semifinals and then his 101st in the finals. A couple other names that kind of stuck out for all you Delbarton fans. Former upper weight and state champion as a sophomore, PJ Casal won. And his teammate, Connor Kerwin, I mean, we were doing the intros and he pinned a guy in 7 seconds with a beautiful trip. And that was the fastest match. I think we were talking with Brad Solstice, who was on color with us. We didn't even really get to cover the match. It was just a beautiful move and super quick. So congratulations there. But now we turn the page, head into this week, and there's a lot of good action in the area this week. If you're wanting to get out and check out some stuff, heading on to Tuesday, heading down Route 31, Delaware Valley travels up to North Hunterdon. Should be a very good match. I know North's looking to rebound after a really tough loss to Phillipsburg last week. And Delaware Valley is ready to go. So that's a really good Skylands Conference matchup. And then we head to the weekend where, Friday first. I messed up my date there. Friday, which is the first night of the Morris County Tournament. And North Hunterdon travels to Hunterdon Central. So that's even more of a battle of 31. And another rivalry match you want to check out that is always kind of close to my heart. Hackettstown travels to Warren Hills. Warren Hills is just on a absolute tear. And speaking of Warren Hills, we're going to be watching and broadcasting them Saturday night, as we will be live broadcasting with commentary, 6 p.m. at Warren Hills, Delaware Valley versus Warren Hills for the Skylands Conference Valley Division title. If everything falls the way it is, they're both undefeated. This should decide who's going to walk away and get to put that plaque up on their wall. Another tournament, keep an eye on if you're in the Morris area, Morris County Tournament. That'll be being contested this weekend. I will not be live streaming it. I'll discuss that, a little later on, but that tournament will be going on as well. Delbarton will be looking for its 13th straight MCT. So that'll be a good way with everything. Speaking of Delbarton, do this a little out of order this week, but Delbarton, great week of action. They obviously are still my top team in the county, but they won the Jack Welch duels. And in the process, in a win over Delsey, Andrew Trocynski from Delbarton is my wrestler of the week. He won his 100th. Now, everybody goes, well, he just won his 100th. With COVID, you have to realize a lot of these kids who were on the steamroll to get those 130, 140s, they lost a bunch of matches last year. So 100 for this next 4 to 5 year group is going to mean a lot, especially with how it started. And you're going to see some really good wrestlers that may not make it. So The 100th win is still a big thing. So Andrew Trocynski, congratulations. You're my wrestler of the week. Now, my question of the week, Miguel from Dover. And this is actually an interesting one because I've talked in the past how I wrestled in high school, but I wasn't that great. I was okay. He asked, what was your favorite gym to wrestle in as a wrestler? And what was your most intimidating? That's actually an interesting question. My favorite gym, actually, I'll go with most intimidating first because that one jumps out to me easily. There's two that I'll mention. And it was when I wrestled for Warren Hills. The first gym is intimidating for not so much the gym, because the gym is very nice and you're on your way. Kittatinny. And what I mean by that is I had never been out in that area. So we drove from Washington up to Hampton, and it was right around Christmas. It might have been right before or after, but it was a dual meet in the season. And I don't know how many people have been to Kittatinny. We made that drive, and you come to those single lane bridges, and it's dark. That's a little, that's not exactly something you want to be doing. You're a little worried, and call me what you want. Some people call me a city boy, some people call me country boy. You don't call me late for dinner. Horrible dad joke. But that was always kind of like, ooh. I mean, we still won, but it's just very, kind of that way in, And then the other one that would be intimidating, the pit, the old pit at Pittsburgh. That was an insane gym. You used to go out there, you used to, wrestle, and the fans are pretty much right on top of you, and they were loud when the guys were winning. When they were losing, it kept quiet, but that was intimidating. My favorite gym, that's actually a harder question. I really enjoyed all the gyms. And it's actually going to be one that I think might surprise people because only a few people will know what gym I'm talking about. But when I was in high school, I went to a school called Chancellor Academy. And I wrestled on their team. And I really kind of enjoyed that gym, that home gym, when we had some matches. That was always kind of my favorite. I really liked that gym. And you know what? I liked Warren Hills at the old gym when we used to wrestle. That was always fun. But those would probably be my favorite gyms that I could think of. But thank you, Miguel. That was actually a question, one of those questions where you kind of know one answer right away, but the second one you're kind of thinking, and that made me think. And anytime you get a chance to do that, it makes you think. That's great. But Miguel also said he's a big fan of my ranking. So without any further ado, let's get to the rankings. Now, this is an interesting set. I know I said last week and the week before, I wanted to stay away from having, 11A, 11B, first in A, first in B. I couldn't do that this week. I had to do it again. So technically it's my, in parentheses, top 12, but my first in B would be Newton. 6-5, 2-2 at the Jack Welch duels. They lost to Jefferson, a really tough match, who's been on a roll by 2. That was very impressive. So I got to have Newton in the conversation. And Butler's my other first one in. 15-3, 4-1 this week. They swept the home quad and have just been on a roll. They've locked up the Division 4 title in the NJIC. They're right there on the cusp. The problem is there's such a bottleneck at the lower part of my rankings with everything, and that may change, but we'll see as it goes along. But number 10, Morris Hills, 2-2 at the Jack Welch duels, 13-4 so far this season. Number 9, Montville, 6-3, lost to Delbarton early in the week, which a loss to Delbarton is not anything to hang your head on. And they swept the home quad. Mendham, number 8. This was the shocker for me a little bit. They lost to Morris Knowles earlier, and not that I thought anything with Morris Knowles was a problem. I just wasn't sure where they stood, and they really impressed me because Morris Hills is number 7, 12-4, had a great week, 5-0. This team's really rolling, and it should be one to kind of keep an eye on as we turn not only to the counties but the sectionals coming up. I'm really, I don't know if they're going to win. I'm not putting that out there, but I think they're going to be very impressive, and they're going to be one of those teams using an NFL analogy as we're here, deep in the playoffs. And I'm sure you saw some of these teams like the Packers and Tennessee lose. They're going to be a tough out. So they're going to be a really tough matchup for some people, and I'm sure there's some people sweating on where Morris Knowles is going to land in the sectional. Number 6, Jefferson, 14-1 this year. They won close over Newton. They beat Hackettstown, and their only losses to Morris Hills early in the season, I think in their first match, maybe January 4th. I forgive early season losses just because a lot of the guys aren't wrestling. They had the football season. So I understand both teams had some guys out, but I kind of always forgive that when I kind of look at everything. Number 5, Pope John. And this is where it gets interesting to me too, because one of my biggest debates this week was there enough from Jefferson to move ahead of Pope John? I didn't see enough. It was super close. It was something I debated very, very heavily. This week will be impressive. I kind of want to see some stuff with Jefferson. I want to see how Pope John does, but it's going to be very impressive, and I wouldn't be shocked if next week you're seeing Jefferson ahead of Pope John. But right now, Pope John's number 5, 4-2, lost to Mount Olive. Once again, a great team, and beat Par Hills and Hopakon last week at Par Hills on Saturday. Number 4, Kittatinny, rough week for the Cougars. Lost to High Point bad. I know a lot of people were wondering if this was the year High Point was going to come back to earth, and they showed that they're legit and beat them. I want to say 47-21. I think I have that score correct, but there. And then they lost to Phillipsburg. Two really good teams, two really good teams, two top 20-ish teams in the New Jersey Wrestling Wrestlers Writers Association poll. So that's not anything to hang your head on. But Kittatinny's still another one of those teams. Just like I said, Morris Knowles, they're going to be tough, and we'll see how the seeding goes for sectionals. Number 3, High Point, 5-4, 4-2 last week. They stumbled a little bit early on, in some of their loss, but they're hitting their stride now. They're going to be a really tough outcome sectionals. Number 2, Mount Olive, 11-1, swept the quad down at Hunterdon Central. Rewriting history. I mean, they're a top 10 team in the New Jersey Wrestling Writers Association. Will be releasing the poll here in, I'm sure, a couple days. They were last week. They got to be moving up. And number 1 team in the state, number 1 team all around. Delbarton won the Jack Welch duels. They're going for their 13th straight MCT, 9-0. I mean, can anything stop this team? I mean, they're really, really on a win streak. And the one thing I like to always say too is with Delbarton, a lot of people go, "Oh, well, it's these kids and these kids that win." Sure, you advance to the finals and you win. That's great for your team score. But what everybody that looks past is when you look at this team and you look at the semifinals, 9 times out of 10, they've already clinched it, because it's not so much the Trocynskis or the Joneses or any of those guys who most likely will win. It's the guys who make it to the semis and wrestle back for third. It's those guys who wind up getting the advancement points and the bonus points. That's why, because it's a solid all-around team. Now, I mentioned earlier, I hesitated and hemmed and hawed about kind of talking about this, just because I don't know if anybody cares. I don't know, the situation. But a lot of people have been messaging me, asking me about if you follow me on social media, if you follow me on different stuff. There's kind of been a little change with some stuff going on. We've sort of rebranded ourselves as Garden State HS Wrestling. We've always kind of referred to it, but now it's going to be the main focus going forward. Reason being is I'll give you a little history lesson before I kind of go into everything. I used to work for the Star Ledger when I got out of college. I worked for the Star Ledger for 5 years, covering Ocean Monmouth and no Morris, but a little pretty much West Jersey. I decided to leave the Star Ledger in 2012 when they wanted to double something and cut something in half, and that wasn't the pay and the work. It was they wanted to double my work and have us work for less, and I kind of said, no, I'm not really going to do that. So a bunch of us left, and there was a mass exodus, and I decided, I'm going to keep my kind of toe in the water, if you will, foot in the door when it comes to wrestling. So I created Morris County HS Wrestling. That's why the site comes up as Morris County HS Wrestling. I live in Morris County. I'm just covering Morris County wrestling. So I started the site and then realized quickly that I knew of the NJAC, but I realized all the Sussex team and some of the Warren. So now I went from covering at the beginning 24 teams, which since it's gone to 22, but 24 teams in Morris County. And then I added all of them Sussex and 2 of Warren County. No problem. They were all within driving distance, no problem. So I basically was covering the NJ. Then I went out to the Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex, and was asked by multiple coaches, hey, we really like that. Can you please bring that to us? Because while I was out there, obviously I'm covering half the tournament and half the teams. So I was like, sure, no problem. And one of the teams I wasn't covering was Warren Hills. I'm an alumni from there, so that wasn't a stretch. Belvedere's right there, and all pretty much all the Hunterdon teams. So I started covering that. So no problem. Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex, Morris. So what basically became a hobby from just to kind of keep my my ear to the door, just kind of understanding what's going on with wrestling, then became almost my full-time job covering 4 counties. And one of the things I did the first year was that I noticed, because when I worked for the Star Ledger, I felt the biggest disgrace was they limited so much coverage that you would get results, you write scores, and a lot of the stories you see during the regular season, it's very rare there's actually a reporter there. I'm not peeking behind the curtain or anything, but a lot of times they get the stuff called in, they write the story, they put a byline on it, boom. A lot of the times, the only time I was seeing any type of coaches or anything from a specific school or county was at counties, when I would go cover the Morris County Tournament, or at regions, usually, and sometimes districts, depending on what district is entered to. But you would see these guys, and you wouldn't really see the teams because obviously in districts you're doing your stuff, but you were covering the major stuff. And part of my French, English, whatever you want to call it, that was a fucking disgrace, an absolute disgrace that you're coming and seeing these kids. And I was a part of it, and that's what bothered me so much. And you're like, oh, I'm covering you, but how are you covering? You're just showing up and covering the big moments. You're not actually there covering stuff. So I wanted to change that when I went and started my own site. One of the things I wanted to do as well was live stream and broadcast on the site, obviously, the tournaments. Now, it was different when we started with the Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex, because before it's at its home in Phillipsburg, it used to bounce between Hopakon and Hunterdon Central. And a lot of times at those schools, they wouldn't run the tournament with one finals mat, etc. They would run multiple mats and just kind of run through it. And, that was difficult to broadcast because you obviously want to call commentary and you just don't want to put a camera there and live stream stuff. Morris was different. Morris starts with 4 mats, goes down, wrestles through, and basically has the 1 mat, and that's the best for broadcasting. So when I did it the very first year, I approached the coaches and the athletic directors. They loved the idea. They didn't know they didn't want to pay. They didn't know how much it would cost. So I said, no, that's not a problem. I will take care of it. The very first the first Morris County tournament I covered in 2013 cost me $2,000 out of pocket. I had a crooked guy who was helping me out with the podcast, like the broadcast. He was overcharging for Mendham TV and everything we did with the equipment, everything. So when the next year came, I wanted to do it again, and they had no problem with it. I had approached about exclusive rights. And when I did, I was told, that's not really something we're interested in doing right now. But if we ever do, you'll be the first person we talk to, you'll know. You'll be the first person that knows. So that second year, here I am thinking I'm walking in and they're going to help, promote this and everything else. MSG Varsity is live streaming as well. So sure, that was a little bit disrespectful because here I am kind of covering your county, and the worst thing you could say is, no, but who am I? It's MSG Varsity. It's a cable station. Like, I understand that. So I kind of bit my tongue, no problem, still did it. MSG Varsity folds. So now I have the live streams going forward. And I'm happy. And every year I'm asking, I want to do this exclusively. I want to set this up. Well, we're not sure. That's not something we're into right now, but if we ever decide to do something with the rights, you're the first to know. Fast forward a few years ago, and I get told that I no longer have the rights. And the reason being is someone approached them and they said, yeah, no problem. Now, when it comes to, I don't want to say security, but when it comes to situations where you're pitching something or you're selling something, if you have somebody who's been doing it for free for a couple of years and somebody else comes in and says, oh, I'll do it, but we work together. We didn't work together. I knew the person. I had done some stuff for their site, but it wasn't like I was working for him or employed by him. Never got a W-9, W-2, anything. Never, made anything like that. So for the athletic directors to then give him basically, oh, I work with Don. Okay, we'll sign it over. What I felt was really wrong. So there was a disagreement about that. And then you fast forward after that tournament, him and I wound up doing it together. You know, there was really no issues. But then afterwards, we decided, hey, we're going to go our separate ways. COVID hit. I really didn't push the issue after that because there's no real answer. Everybody knows when COVID hit. We didn't know what was going to happen with sports. Everything got canceled in the spring. We didn't know what was going to happen the next year. We weren't, you know, once it got announced that, hey, this is what's going on, I still kept in touch with some of the people in charge to kind of find out. But, you know, I didn't push the issue, obviously, because of what was going on, but just kind of let them know I was still interested. Thought everything was going fine this year, and then was told over the summer by one person that the decision had been made 2 years ago. And I was told by another person that they still weren't sure what was going on. And then all of a sudden he stopped responding. So my coverage from Morris will be done by another production, which, by the way, is going to do all formats and do everything, which is what I suggested to do the year or so before. So I kind of feel that I was used as a way to get in to say, hey, this is what we did. And my work was used as sort of a name to get in the door. But I digress. So the reason we're changing everything over is, as of the end of the year, I'm going to be shutting down the Morris County portion of the site. It's not in my best interest to go every day before practices in the preseason, film videos, do all this work, take time away from my family, take time away from other things I could be doing to go out and cover on a daily basis a county that I learned from Joe Hoffman, one of the best, one of the greatest. He's my idol, and how to cover a county. And it doesn't benefit me to go out there to do it, to all of a sudden, when you have your main championships, to then decide, hey, you can't do it. You can do everything else, but you can't do it. That would essentially be like putting it out there. If I was the coach of a team, or, you know, I don't want to name any specific coaches, but we'll use, you know, any coach in the area. Say they're building a team, they, you know, get the kids in, they build up the program, they get everything going. They actually have a really good squad. They're about to go down the groups, or they're about to go from sectionals to groups, and they have a chance to win it all. And all of a sudden somebody else comes in and goes, you know, you've been doing a really good job, but we're going to let this person do it. They don't really know wrestling. They're not a wrestling person. They don't know a wrist lock from a wrist watch, but we're going to let them handle it. That's pretty much what happened. So I've decided I'm just going to, you know, I have no hard feelings for the Coaches Association, none at all. When everything was found out, they were very receptive. You know, I know they've done a great job. They appreciate what I do. So, like, I have absolutely no problems with the Coaches Association for Morris County. You know, I'm friendly with all of them. I hope that continues. You know, if I see them in a match, that's fine. You know, some of the athletic directors say one thing or doing another, you know, that's on them. But if they, you know, that's how they do business. I mean, I'm all about, with this site, when I do it, the main goal I have, and I don't want to get choked up, but the main goal I have is I want to promote wrestling. I don't care about football. I don't care about track. I don't care about any other sports. And I think it's disrespectful that so they can get 15 more views on a county tournament for a sport people don't watch. They sold out a guy who's covering their county every single day, calling up, texting. For example, after the PCT last night, I came home. I still had all my schedule to fill out from yesterday. I was messaging coaches at 11:30 for scores I couldn't find on track. I could have been down out with my wife downstairs, living life, but I didn't. I was doing this. And the one thing with the main focus is with my site, and it's going to continue this way, and this is how I've always done it now, without so much more is involved. I understand a lot of kids are in situations where they may not get the recognition. And what I mean by that is, anybody can go to states and interview the Oliveris, the Ramos, you know, the state champs of the world, the Soldanos, who are great wrestlers and great interviews. They're going to get their looks from college. The ones I'm looking at, and I feel they're going to be hurt going forward in the future, are the Desmond Towns. And for you who don't know, Desmond Towns is an assistant coach at Morristown, and he wrestled for Morristown. And one of the things that is, I didn't realize this when I started the site, but I'm happy he related to me, and it was my goal, and I was so happy he related to me that this actually happened. Desmond Towns wrestled in the districts in his home gym. He made the third place match. That gym was so electric for him, and the place was packed. Back when they had the old districts and regions, back when in Morristown you had the Hanover Parks, the Precipitones, you know, that you could drive to the gym if you heard one of your own or local could come and see. Desmond Towns won third. I wrote an article about him for winning third. He told his team 3 years ago, and we were talking, he said, this is the guy, and if you need anything with wrestling, you talk to him. He wrote a story about me my senior year that a college coach noticed, called me, and got me a scholarship. That blew my mind, that I didn't realize that I had, you know, helped him that much reach. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to make a conglomerate of footage. I don't care about everything else with every other sport. You're trying to become a multimedia giant. I'm a wrestling guy. I am a reporter. I am not a media guy. I'm not Mr. PC. You can hear it when I talk. I don't give a flying fuck if people like me. It's my job. This is what I do. You get what you get. I'm not a two-faced person. So the fact that this is kind of how the situation is gone, I have other counties begging me to come in. There's coaches, you know, from all over who know what I do, who have been asking. Passaic County is one of them. That's why we're going to be entering there. There's going to be more of a focus on Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex. I think, you know, obviously with the way Hunterdon is mixed in, there might be some mix into the Skylands Conference. There's other places that really want me. So why am I going to keep dealing with the abusive ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend spouse who, you know, you don't have everything ready and they're looking, you know, at the grass is greener on the other side? Sorry, that's not my role. And I'm, you know, I'm not going to put myself in that situation where, you know, I can do all the legwork. I can cover these guys, but when push comes to shove, I don't get the respect. You know, I feel like I'm not looking for people to kiss my ass. Please don't think this is a plea. I'm people to kiss my ass, but understand, you know, parents and, you know, the assistant coaches. I told the coaching association 2 weeks ago that obviously this was going to be happening. That's why I started switching stuff over. All of them had well wishes, and they told their coaching staff. All the emails I've gotten from people begging me, please, not only in county, but all over, the word has gotten out. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn and think like I'm some Edward R. Murrow or anything like that, but I feel I do a damn good fucking job in what I do with wrestling. And the fact that basically a slap in the face being told this is best. It's nothing against you. This is what's best. Oh, you took a tournament nobody wanted to cover with live stream and video, built it into something, and we gave it to somebody else, but it's nothing against you. It's not you, it's me. It's not, please. So with that, we're going to keep steamrolling. You're going to see more and more Hunterdon, Warren, Sussex coverage. As I said, we're going to be broadcasting that matchup, the big Skylands Valley Conference matchup with Delaware Valley travels to Warren Hills. You're going to see more Passaic County action. They had a great time. The response was awesome for our live stream the other day. And like I said, you never know when we might appear next, but I'm still going to be doing Morris throughout the year. You know, I'm going to do my predictions Thursday for the upcoming tournament. I won't be there Friday. I won't be there Saturday. You can find the coverage elsewhere. I recommend going to nj.com. That'd probably be the best because I know they usually send somebody over to do that. But, you know, I really don't have anything else to say about the situation. I mean, don't, I've kind of come to terms with it. I've gone through the 5 stages, and I'm just like, if you don't like what I'm doing, enjoy what you're getting now for a couple of years, because I'm not sticking around hoping everything goes okay. If and when everything else falls apart, you're not coming crawling back to me. Sorry. I mean, that's just the way it is. And, please, if you have an issue with everything going down, talk to your athletic directors, talk to your coaches, more the athletic director, because they're the ones making the decisions. But like you said, I'm not trying to cause any ripples. My personal opinion, you can talk to all of your athletic directors you want. I don't think anything's going to change. They have their own decisions. They have their feelings on what it is. And, that's why I'm a wrestling guy, and that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. That's why I do this. I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I'm not a guy who punches a time card, kisses somebody's ass, and, does that. And maybe that's some of the administrations around the area. I don't know. I'm just saying that's not me, and I'm not going to start now. So before I get in any more trouble, which who fucking cares? All I know is I will be covering the tournament. I will be covering the tournament the way I can with the seeding and the, my predictions. But as far as everything else, I'm not going to be there doing everything. So, they're going to get what they pay for. So it's just going to be what it is. But you can catch us at the Delaware Valley and Warren Hills matchup this Saturday. And we're going to have, hope we'll try to get whoever wins that. We'll talk to some people from that. We'll have next week, we'll have our wrestler of the week. We'll have our rankings. We'll have all that. But for Jared, the podcasting legend, I'm Donald J. Brower. We'll see you next week.